Welcome to This Week in Tiger Athletics. I'm your host, Haley White, and before we break down the sports schedule in Tigerland, Haley Chapman, junior pitcher of FHSU softball, joins me today to discuss her efforts on the mound so far this season. Haley's from Salina and played ball at Salina South. She has been a starter for the Tigers since her freshman season. FHSU is 12-11 overall and is 5-3 in MIAA play this year as the team enters doubleheaders at home this Friday against Northeastern State and Saturday against Central Oklahoma. First off, congrats on another solid weekend. Talk about how the team is playing right now.
We're definitely playing more to our standard. We kind of talked about that at the beginning of the year, that we don't want to play down to the other team's standards. We definitely saw that in Lincoln. We had some illness come in the way, but we definitely stepped up our game at the plate, on the mound as well.
And speaking of that, in the sweep over Lincoln on Friday, you struck out 19 batters. What was that like to dominate a team like that?
It was actually pretty cool. I haven't had that many strikeouts in a day, let alone 14 in one game. And it just has a lot to do with my trust in my coach, her calls, and we were able to get a lot of the batters off balance at the plate.
So as you said, you haven't had a day like that. Have you had a day of pitching similar to that?
Last year when we were playing in Texas, we played Cameron, and it was an extra innings game, and I came off the mound with, I think, 13 strikeouts, had a really strong day all around as a team. That was probably the closest I've had to it.
Right now, the team is sitting 6th in MIAA standings at 5-3. Last year, Fort Hays finished 13th in conference play. What is different about this year as compared to last year's squad?
I think a lot of it has to do with our team chemistry this year. We play a lot better on the field. We have a lot more trust within each other, and alongside that, I think we have a lot more solid lineup. We're a lot more consistent.
And during the doubleheader against Lindenwood, you had a phenomenal game, recording 3 strikeouts and only allowing a single unearned run, which ultimately led to the Lions' 1-0 win. You have to agree that games like that really shows the importance of good pitching and fielding in a day.
Absolutely. You know, their pitcher came out and she dominated on the mound as well. She, I think, had around 11 strikeouts, keeping our offense off balance. And I just tried my best to keep up with her and do the same to give my team their best opportunity to win.
And you currently have a 3.04 earned run average and a 7-5 record. How has this year been for you?
It's actually been a lot different than the past 2 years. I haven't had the best statistical standings previously, but I think this year, speaking with my coach, we've really focused on not necessarily like wins and losses, but more of my ERA, hits allowed, doubles allowed, things of that nature.
And speaking of previous stats, you went 10-21 as a freshman and 5-21 on the mound as a sophomore. How have those experiences helped you get to where you are at this point in the season?
I mean, the biggest thing is that it's definitely instilled confidence in me. I have a lot of experience on the mound, and playing against teams with players who I've seen for the past 2 years, we kind of are able to build how we should pitch to them, things like that.
In 10 of your starts this year, you've been able to go a complete game. How have you seen yourself get stronger in your time at FHSU to make it to a complete game?
Like I said before, the confidence is definitely a huge factor, but also over the summer I worked and I added 2 new pitches to my arsenal, so that was definitely key in keeping the other teams off balance.
And last year, the team struggled a bit in middle innings. Did Coach talk to you guys about that entering the season and ways to avoid that mid-inning kind of drought?
Absolutely. She pretty much discussed, and we have like this emphasis this year on scoring early. We definitely see a lot more success when we score in the early innings as opposed to waiting till the 7th.
The roster was really young last year, and it's still pretty young. But how did that experience last year for some of the freshmen help them this season?
Just coming into this year, we all kind of accepted our leadership roles, being that there's no seniors, so we've kind of all taken it upon our shoulders to be the tone setters of each game.
You have 76 strikeouts this season so far, and you're on your way to eclipsing your total of 124 from last year. Does mixing up pitches against batters and trying to keep them off balance as they come back for a second, third, fourth round of batting help?
Absolutely, yeah. And when I'm pitching, I don't necessarily go for the strikeout. I usually try to throw a low ball pitch or something off the plate to get the batter to kind of throw their hands at it and roll over to force a ground ball. So it's definitely been helpful having those extra pitches.
And this weekend you get to see the top 2 teams in the conference in Northeastern State and Central Oklahoma. What would it mean to the team to go out and play 4 solid games this weekend and potentially come away with wins?
It would honestly be a huge win if we were to come out on top of UCO. I think they're our biggest competition each year. It's always a huge game that we always look forward to because they're such a great team with great pitching. So seeing ourselves having success at the plate and success on the mound against a great team would be huge for us.
And of course, the rest of the MIAA schedule won't be easy either. But what would it mean for the team to make it to the MIAA conference tournament this year?
It would be huge. It would be pivotal in our program, honestly. We haven't been there the past 2 years, which are some of the first 2 years which our team hasn't made it. So making it there would just prove that all of our hard work over the years paid off.
Well, thanks for joining me today, Haley.
Thanks for having me.
When we return, we will break down the rest of this week in athletics.
He often climbs to the 3rd floor of Rarick without taking a second breath. No matter when he submits his assignment to Blackboard, it is considered early, even if it is 5 days late. The line at Starbucks parts when he arrives. He considers the homecoming bonfire a small flame for s'mores. Every time he walks downtown, it's considered a march to Maine. His doodles on scrap paper are framed and hung in Rarick Hall. Once he parked in a 30-minute zone overnight, and the campus police left him a thank you note and a gift card.
I don't always party, but when I do, I register with SGA. Now party responsibly, my friends.
Welcome back to This Week in Tiger Athletics. Joining me now is FHSU SID Ryan Prickett, and he's going to help me break down the rest of This Week in Athletics. So unless you've lived under a rock, you probably already know the outcome of the women's basketball schedule this season. So the women fell to Southwestern Oklahoma State 88-77 during the Central Regional Championship.
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere once again here at the Coliseum, the opportunity to host the NCAA Regional. It came all the way down to Sunday night of Conference Championship Week to determine who was going to be number 1 and number 2 in the region. Obviously, you know, the way the season played out, it felt like it was option 1A and 1B because both teams finished the regular season at 30-1 overall. Both were very deserving of hosting the regional. There was a few things in that math formula that broke our way on Sunday that I kind of knew about it when I was looking at it and kind of like, hey, if this category shifts here, or hey, if they play this team, which wound up happening, it was like the perfect storm for us of what happened to them as far as what changed their math formula. And I had a feeling that it might break our way that night, and to see our name on the number 1 line, that was awesome. And to know that, you know, the regional was coming to Hayes, it's a quick turnaround to try and prep for it, for sure. Our department, you know, I have a lot of things that I have to coordinate with the media and the operations of the games going on, and several other people that, you know, have to put some effort into that over 3 or 4 days to get it ready. And you know, it's a whole collaborative team effort, even you guys over here with the streaming side of it and things like that. So I thought that the tournament ran very, very well. We had, you know, great attendance. That was one of the biggest things that I really loved about it. Obviously 5,000 people in the gymnasium on Monday night for that regional championship game, but you know, unfortunately it just didn't break our way. Southwestern Oklahoma just came out shooting the living daylights out of the ball. I think they hit the first 5 or 6 shot attempts they put up in the game, and we didn't hit one till about 7 or 8 attempts into the game. And so we found ourselves in a 16-2 hole right out of the gate. And that's hard to make up against a team like that that's loaded with a lot of talent. There's a couple of kids on there that are All-America caliber players. One of them obviously showed that on Monday night with Hayden Pretty going off for more than 30 points. Didn't look like she was fazed by that atmosphere at all. So, I mean, hats off to them for how they played considering that atmosphere, because a lot of teams would probably wilt in that atmosphere. But unfortunately, we just didn't have it that night. And it's just frustrating to see that, you know, that's the second time in 5 years now that we get to that point, that regional championship game on our home floor, but we just can't quite punch our ticket into the Elite Eight. And so I have no doubt that the program's going to come back strong again next year. Obviously, we lose two big key parts of our roster, which are Tatiana and Carly, but that team is built for success for years to come. And I'm excited to see, you know, what we're going to accomplish again next year, and hopefully, you know, maybe we will break through one of these times and finally get to that ultimate goal of getting to the championship site and hopefully making some noise down there. But I guess we'll see how Southwestern Oklahoma does this week in championship action. They have a pretty good draw down there as far as their road to maybe making the championship. So who knows? Maybe they'll have a chance at winning it all. And you know, sometimes you kind of feel like, well, I wish that was us, but you know, it's kind of the ultimate compliment that if you are going to lose to somebody, maybe it's the eventual national champion. And you know, that's what happened last year. Is, you know, we got knocked out of the regional against Central Missouri, and they went on to win the national title. So we know this region is just unbelievably strong in women's basketball, and for us to accomplish what we did this year, go 32-2 overall, I think that was, you know, a phenomenal year for the team, and I look forward to the years to come.
Yes, it was definitely a record year. So to move on, FHSU baseball sits at 2-21 overall after 2 conference series losses against Missouri Southern and Northeastern State.
Yeah, obviously baseball still working on, you know, building things right now. The thing is we've been in some of those ball games. It's not like we're getting completely annihilated in every game right now. They've had some contests where it feels like we're right there on the verge. We lose by 1 run or 2 runs. If a situation late in the game would just break our way, we could bust through with a few more wins. But we know it's going to be that kind of year right now where we're trying to build the program back up and find out who's going to be out there doing things for us right now. So hopefully, you know, we'll finally maybe get to play a game on our field. Mm-hmm. It seems like that's been forever, since early in February, because all this weather chaos that's been thrown at us for almost like a month and a half. So hopefully we'll be able to see some baseball at Larks Park coming up here in the near future.
Yes, they have Northwestern Oklahoma State Wednesday, followed by a 3-game series versus Lindenwood this weekend.
Yes, exactly.
Fort Hays Track and Field opened up the outdoor season at the Emporia Spring Invite. Some of the top finishers for Fort Hays was high jumper Colt Newell. He finished first in the event. And Yessie Gonzalez claimed the title in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. Summer Craigle finished first in the high jump, and Alexia Deicher earned a provisional and a new PR in the javelin with a throw of 160 feet 2 inches.
Yeah, a great weekend for track and field to start out the outdoor season. I think obviously going back there a few weeks ago when we talked to Coach McCullough about how they try to start peaking at the time of outdoor season when it comes around, and now we've got some of our top throwers out there doing things that we don't see during the indoor season, especially the javelin. That's an event we've been traditionally strong at here for several years now in a row. So anyway, it's a great start to the season. Obviously, Colt in the high jump, he got a provisional mark already for NCAA championships. And then Alexia, you know, we fully expect her to be in the top 5 in the country in the javelin, and she's done that right away out of the gate. She's sitting at 3rd in the nation after that throw of over 160 feet, which, you know, honestly, when you look at that throw compared to what Madison Wolf threw at the national championships last year, that's only about a foot or 2 shy of what Madison threw. So we like seeing where Alexia has progressed to now, and now she's going to hopefully take over that spotlight of what was held by Madison last year. And Alexia is already a two-time All-America in the event, so she has a good shot at being one of those people competing for a national title this year in that event.
And they will stay at home. The Alex Francis Classic has actually been moved to Thursday instead of Friday this week.
Obviously, going back what we were just talking about with baseball, hopefully we're finally here at home this week, which I fully expect we will be. We could be seeing some schedule changes on the weekend stuff with softball, baseball, depending on what the weather throws at us. Right now, the forecast, the reason why we are moving the track meet up to Thursday, Friday doesn't look particularly ideal right now for track, so a 70-degree day with some sun. I think the athletes and coaches would much rather take that than potential rainy conditions with blowing wind. That's just no fun, especially if it's in the 40s. So we'll see what the forecast does here throughout the week. If it improves and we can keep the baseball, softball games as scheduled, we will. But we may be looking at pushing them back a day or two just based off of what the weather forecast throws at us here in a couple of days. So.
Fort Hays women's tennis suffered a 7-0 loss against Northeastern State earlier today, which moves them 3-6 overall and 0-4 in conference play. Yeah,
the tennis team, they're doing a good job of going out there competing right now. I was able to catch some of that match here earlier this morning. I feel like the ladies are competing hard. They're doing some good things out there on the court. We're just unfortunately in the mix of a great conference in women's tennis. Right now, I think I checked this morning, there might have been 4 MIAA schools that are all in the top 50 in the country, especially one of the ones we just played, Central Oklahoma, who's number 4 in the nation. So Washburn has really elevated their program, and then Northwest Missouri, who's been kind of average these last few years, they're all of a sudden in the national rankings too. And so unfortunately, we're just in a very tough conference right now. I feel like the ladies are right there on the verge of breaking through in a couple of those matches. We just need the ball to bounce our way a little bit, or just not make unforced errors in the situations where you get into long rallies. We're doing everything that we should, but then all of a sudden we're the ones making the mistake instead of them making the mistake. And so if we can just get past some of those things, I think our ladies can break through in a few of these matches coming up in conference play.
And the Tigers will have a Missouri road trip this weekend, starting with Southwest Baptist on Friday, followed by Lindenwood on Saturday.
Yes.
Well, thanks for joining me today, Ryan.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes this episode. Tune in next week for another episode of This Week in Tiger Athletics. To stay up to date on the latest news and information throughout the week, visit tigermedianet.com. Until then, remember, roar Tigers!